Today's daf is Masechta Baba Kamma daf. We're going to begin on the bottom of Chavzayin Mabeis, about 4 lines from the bottom. Let's just review. We're discussing here a disagreement between Rabbi Yehuda and Rav Nachman. The story was that there was a person who had a well, and it was shared between two people. Basically, they alternated days when they can draw water from the well. So one of the persons who started drawing water from the well was drawing water from the well on the day that was not his turn. Comes along the other one and says, "Hey, it's my turn. You're not supposed to draw water from this well." So, and instead, in stopping him, he whacked him, and they started hitting him to stop drawing water from the well. So that launched into a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rav Nachman. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Loy ovid inish dinin de nafshe." A person is not allowed to do a din for himself. If you have a problem with somebody, go to court. Don't take the law into your own hand. Rav Nachman says, "Ovid inish dinin de nafshe." A person could take the law into his own hand. The question is, we paskin like Rav Nachman, but I'm not sure if you're allowed to harm somebody. But the reason why Rav Nachman said a person could take the law into his own hands, because the Gemara says if he knows he's 100% right, he can take an action to take the law into his own hands, because he has a reason why he doesn't want to go to Bezdin, because it's a big bother to wait till you get a court date from Bezdin. So might as well settle it. If you're strong enough, settle it by yourself, and then let the other guy sue you if he has a problem. So again, the machlokes is between Rabbi Yehuda and Rav Nachman. Rabbi Yehuda said, "Loy ovis inish dina l'nafshei," right? Because if right now the story is over, you have to go to in front of Bezdin. And Rav Nachman said a person is allowed to do the din Torah, take the law into your own hands, since you're following what the real law is. So therefore, loy tarach, you don't have to bother going to Bezdin. So the Gemara continues and asks the question. Most of Rav Kana asked on Rav Yehuda. The Brisa says, Ben Bagbag, Oime Ben Bagbag says, Al Tikonis Lachatzah, Chavercha, Litel, Shalecha, Shloi B'Rshus. Do not enter the domain of your friend, the courtyard of your friend, to take something there that belongs to you without his permission. For example, if your bicycle is in his courtyard, don't go in the middle of the night to take it back. Shema Teira Alev Kagana, because you'll look like somebody, a robber. You will appear like a robber. Ella Shavor Eshinov, go over to him and tell him, "That's my bike. Break his teeth. I'm taking it back. Don't ask questions." So we see that from this brisa of it inish dina to nafshe, not like Rabbi Yehuda, that a person is not allowed to do that. Maybe go to court. Amalei. So Rabbi Yehuda will answer back. We go to Chesmanal Imach. You're right. You think this is a good question? Ben Bagbag is just one opinion. Upli Rabbanan Alei. Rabbanan argue on Ben Bagbag. They say no. If you want your bike back, go to court. Rabbi Yana says Shavor Eshinov. What does it mean to break his teeth? But then that's exactly what the brisa means. Go in court and break his teeth, and say you want your bike back. But it doesn't mean that you can take it back on your own. If the brisa is talking about he's actually going to court, the Emerloi, that he's telling him, "I want my bike back." The Emerloi, Bezdin, they tell him, the courtyard owner, that's his bike. So the word V'Oimrloi should be written in the brisa. Is he saying, "Shaliyanei night, I'm taking my bike back"? The Bezdin is going to paskin that the courtyard owner should give back that bike, because Shaloihu night, he's taking back his. So the language of the Brisa doesn't fit so precisely. If you're saying that's exactly what the Brisa is saying, what Ben Bagbag is saying is that you do actually go to court. So Kasha, this is a difficult question on the teretz of Rabbi Yanai, but we do have other turutsim that Ben Bagbag is singular, but the Rabbanan would argue on him. Tashma coming here. Shar she'ola al gabe chavere. A shar that went onto the back of its friend, of his friend. I mean, another ox. One ox jumped onto another ox, laharge, to kill it. Uba balatachlin, the one that owns the shore, the ox that's being attacked from the bottom. The shamet eshloi just pulled away his ox. The nafe elyon, but so the top ox, the ox that was attacking, fell. Umes. because and he died because the bottom ox was pulled out from underneath him by the owner of the bottom ox. Potter, the owner of the bottom ox, doesn't have to pay to the owner of the top ox for killing his ox. My love. Now, this guy took the law into his own hand because b'muad, maybe the attacking ox was a muad. So even if his bottom ox would have been killed, he would have been able to collect full damages. And nevertheless, so he wouldn't have lost anything. The Lake of Seda, there wouldn't have been any loss if it actually the top ox killed the bottom ox. He wouldn't have lost anything. Nevertheless, we say that he's allowed to take the law into his own hand and inadvertently, in an indirect way, kill the top ox by pulling his ox from out underneath. So we see a person could take the law into his own hands, so it's a kasha against Rav Yehuda. And says the Gemara, over here it's different. Bitam, the Ikab say that here we're talking about that it was a tam. The top ox was a tam. So had he not taken the law in his own hands, he would have lost out, because if the top ox killed the bottom ox, he would only collect half damages. And even in such a case where there is a loss right then and there, even Rabbi Yehuda would agree that you can take the law into your own hands. It's only if there would not have been a loss, and it doesn't matter, and you can go to court just as well. Rabbi Yehuda requires you to go to court. But if there's going to be an actual loss, if you wait to go to Bezdin, even Rabbi Yehuda agree, you can take the law into your own hands. So, if you're telling me that Bryce is talking about that it was a tam, and therefore he had to take the law into his own hands, Ema Sefer, let us see the end of the Brisa. Let's say instead of yanking the bottom ox from underneath the top ox, he actually pushed the top ox off umes, and the top ox died. Chayev, you're obligated to pay. Why? If he was going to sustain a loss, if that ox was a tam, the top ox was a tam, so he's trying to protect himself from an immediate loss. Amai chayev? Why would he be chayev if he pushed the top ox off? He's trying to protect himself, and even Rabbi Yehuda agrees, when you're trying to protect yourself from an immediate loss, then you're allowed to take the matters into your own hands. And says the Gemara, really, yes, probably yes, he would be allowed to take the law into his own hands. But he had another way. He could have yanked his ox out from underneath, and maybe that is the safer way, because that ox is landing straight down. By pushing the ox off, the top or the back of the bottom of the bottom ox, it's more of a dangerous way for the ox to protect your bottom ox, because it's risky for the top ox. It's most likely going to die, and therefore, since you did it in such a way, you're obligated to pay. Tashma, come in here. Someone fills up the courtyard of his friend full of oil and full of wine, jugs of wine. Why did he do that? Because he thinks that the courtyard of his friends really is his. So he took books like old soda bottles and whatever, and dumped it all into the chatzar of his friend. So Baal Chatzar Mishabev Yoytze Mishabev V'Nichnas. So the owner of the courtyard can break all those bottles and go in and out of his courtyard. So we see that you can take the law into his own hands. He doesn't have to return those jugs of oil and the jugs of wine back to its original owner. He can break it. But what are you putting your jugs into my courtyard? So we see you can take the law into your own hands. And says the Gemara, Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, no, you can't take the law into your own hands. Mishaba v'yoytze lebezin. What it means is, if you have no way out of your courtyard, you can break your way out to go to the court, or you can break your way back into your courtyard, to bring your deed to prove that this courtyard is yours. Because why did the other person fill up this courtyard with kadeyayin and kadeshemen? Because he thinks it's his. So you can't break all his kadeyayin and kadeshemen. You can just break up a little bit, so you can have a path to go in and out of your courtyard in order to bring your proof to Bezdin that this courtyard is really yours. But you cannot take the law into your own hands. Tashma, come in here. Menayin, how do we know? Let's say if after Nirtza, a Nirtza is an Eved that had his ear drilled, and now time's up, it's Yovel. and the master is pushing him to leave the chaval, and the guy didn't want to leave. The Eved wants to stay. The chaval, so he wounded him. He actually got into a fight with him and whacked him. But also by Chaburan and made a wound on this Eved Ivri. Shupata, you're not obligated to pay. Because why did he do that? He says, you're supposed to leave. You can't stay here anymore. And the guy says, I'm not leaving. So he fought with him and pushed him out and actually wounded him. The master wounded the Eved. You don't have to pay. Talmud loima loisikhu kaifa loshev loisikhu kaifa lashav. You don't have to take payment from somebody who's trying to push out his Eved. That's what we're going to darshan. Somebody who's supposed to return back home and doesn't want to return, you have a right to self-evict this Eved. So we see from here that you could take the law into your own hands. That says the Gemara, here we're talking about Ba'avda Ganava, a slave that is a Ganav. And therefore, you don't want to keep him around because he's going to steal from you. And therefore, you have a right to push him out, even if you hold, you can't take the law into your own hands. But if it's an immediate threat, everybody agrees you could take the law into your own hands. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? Why is it an immediate threat? Because this Eved is a Ganav. We know that's how he became an Eved Ivri Ganav. You purchased him because he was a known robber. But Ade Idna Loy Ganav, Hashta Ganav, right now, all this time that he was your slave, he didn't steal. Now, all of a sudden, when he's asked to leave, he's going to start stealing. So why is that considered an immediate threat? So the Gemara says, yes, it is an immediate threat because up until now, the fear of his master was on him. And because he was an Eved, Hashta now, he has a right to go free, Leslie Amos the Rabbi Aleh, he doesn't fear the master anymore. And because of that, therefore, it's an immediate threat that he's going to start stealing. Therefore, the master has special permission to self-evict the Eved, even if during the method that he's using will cause a damage or wound to the Eved. He's not obligated to pay. Because in this scenario, the Torah gave you the permission to take the law into your own hands. Nachman Yitzchak explained, the Eved Shemosulai Rabbi Shifcha Knainis. It's talking about the master gave this Eved a goyish maid to be his temporary wife while he's an Eved. And this Eved does not want to go free and leave his Shifcha Knainis. But right now, if he stays with the Shifcha Kanainis, he's doing a big averi, sleeping with a goy. He's an Eved Ivri that doesn't have the heter anymore to be with this goyish maid. And therefore, since it's not preventing a loss, but it's preventing the Eved Ivri from doing an Isser of sleeping with a goy, so therefore, the Torah allowed the master to forcefully self-evict the Eved Ivri, even if he actually wounds him in the process. So only in that case you can take the law into your own hand. Tashma, come in here. Somebody who, the way we said it before, he filled up the whole Rishus Harabim with his jugs. And somebody else came and tripped over those jugs, and broke it, pata. You're pata from paying. Tamba de niskaba, only because you tripped over it. But if you actually smash it, and smash your way out of it, you're chayiv. So we see that just because somebody did something terrible wrong, he clogged up the whole Rishus Harabim with jugs, you're not allowed to take the law into your own hands and break it. So we see loy of it in just the opposite. A person cannot take the law into his own hands. So this is a kasha against Rav Nachman. Shamzid said in the name of Rava, who adina filishvara. Really, in this case, you're allowed to break all the kadem. If somebody clogged up the whole Rishus Harabim with the jugs, you're allowed to break it. You could take the law into your own hands. I did ton niska, but why does the Mishnah say that he actually tripped? I did ton Mishnah say that since the sefer of the Mishnah says that if in the process he actually if the person that tripped actually damaged his foot, the owner of the jugs or the barrel has to pay for nezek. The dafka niska, it's only that halacha of the Mishnah only applies if he tripped over those jugs. But if he physically and angrily broke those jugs, then the owner of the jugs will not have to pay if somehow he got injured in the process. Let's say the shards went into his knee. Who azak nafshi, because he caused his own damage. So therefore, the Seifa has to say the word niskal. So the Reisha says niskal also. But again, you could learn that our Mishnah is agreeable of a person taking the law into his own hands. Tashema, come in here. Bekatsoy says kappa. Two men are having a fight, and one of the women reached over and saw her husband being beat up, right? And she was at a loss, so she reached in and grabbed the erva, the organ, male organ of the person fighting with her husband. And so the Torah says, and she caused the damage. So the Torah says you cut her hand off. Doesn't mean that moment. She has to pay money for the embarrassment that he caused the other person. My love. Maybe that fight between the two men was she had no other way to protect her husband being killed. And nevertheless, the Torah faults her and says, listen, you have no right to take the law into your own hand and reach into somebody else's erva. And perform baishas. So therefore, the question is, we see from here that a person cannot take the law into his own hands. And says the Gemara, the Torah faults her because she didn't have to do this. She could have, taken a spatula and whacked him, but she didn't have to embarrass him. So therefore, that's why the Torah requires her to pay baishas. If she had no other choice, then what would be the din? Petura, she would be pata, because you could take the law into your own hands if you left with no choice. If that's the case, in the end of the brisa, that makes a differentiation. And the brisa says, that if a shliach bezdin is somebody, a messenger of bezdin, is supposed to, give somebody malchus, let's say, and he embarrasses that person, he's potter from paying. That's the differentiation between a woman who's chayiv in boishes and shliach bezdin is potter from boishes. We can make this differentiation with her herself. But when do we say that she's chayiv to pay boishes? She could save herself in another way, and she chose this way. That's why she's liable for boishes. But she'd be left with no choice. She would be patur. She would be potter. So the question is, why didn't the Brisa say that? Why did the Brisa bring up another case of somebody being potter and baishas via a situation shliach bezdin, when in herself, if she's had no other way to protect her husband, she would be potter. So the Gemara says, "Hakinami Kamma." That's precisely what the Bryce is trying to indicate. But when do we say when do we say that she's required to pay if she had another way not to do this action? But if she had no choice and had to do this, she would become like a regular shliach bezdin that's giving somebody malchus, that the shliach bezdin is forced into giving somebody malchus, and therefore shliach bezdin is potter, she would also be potter. And this is exactly what the Bryce is saying. Tashema, come in here. If a person's Rishus Harabim a person had a path, a person had a field, and he had like a little thoroughfare in his field that belonged to the Rishus Harabim. People were allowed to walk in that field to as part of the roads belonging to Rishus Harabim. They cut through his field. So he didn't like it. So what did he do? On his own, he took it away from them and provided another road from the side. Whatever he gave to the Rishus Harabim, the new road belongs to Rishus Harabim. And what he wanted to take back from the Rishus Harabim, the old road, is not his anymore. It still remains the Rishus Harabim. So now the Rishus Harabim has two roads to go through his field. The Amrit, if you say that a person could take the law into his own hands, he wants to switch roads with the public, and so he's doing the right thing. He's probably making a fair change. So why do we say that whatever he wants back from the Rosh Hashanah, he cannot keep. Lincoln Paz Rabbalesa, let him sit with a shovel or whatever, a stick, and block people from going on the old road because he gave them a new road. Rav Zvid said that we are, even if he gave them a fair exchange, we are afraid that maybe if we allow these people to do changes on their own, they're going to give the rabbim their own crooked road or a bad road. So therefore, we don't allow you to take the law into your own hands. Normally, we allow you to take the law into your own hands, but when you're dealing with a rabbim, right? So with a rabbim, we're extra careful, and therefore, if you did take the law into your own hands, you're confiscated, and they'll confiscate the old road and still make it remain belonging to the rishus, the public. Rabbi Shashi says he wouldn't go so far. If he made a fair exchange, Rabbi Shashi would say that's a good exchange. But that brisa is actually talking about he actually gave them a crooked road. Ravashi says, Kol min hatzad derech haklasin yekru v'lezer chilku zeh. Ravashi says simply, it's impossible to exchange out an old road with a new road because there's always somebody going to complain. Somebody of the rabbims will say, oh, the old road was closer to my destination. Now you're giving me a new road, which is further from my destination. So there's always going to be a complaint over here. So since you can't take the rabbim to court, that always remains, and you can't take the law into your own hands when you're dealing with the rabbim. If so, why don't we say, since you can't take the law into your own hands, let's say the whole exchange is bad, and therefore, why can't he take back the road that he gave, the new road that he gave to the people? Let him tell the public, go back, take the old road, and give me back the new road. In other words, since now I know the halacha that I couldn't have done, I'm not supposed to do this. Therefore, that new road that I gave you was a mistake, and give it back to me. Why do we say that both roads now belong to Rosh Hashanah and belong to the rabbin? Answers the Gemara, Mishum the Rabbi Yehuda, because of what Rabbi Yehuda said. Rabbi Yehuda said, by rabbin also the calculate. Once the public started to use the new road, you're not allowed to destroy it. And so since the public got used to the new road, now he went to yeshiva and he learned that he wasn't supposed to do that. It was like, too bad, it's gifted now to the rabbin, and now the old road and the new road belong to the rabbin. But normally, yes, Ovid inish dina the nafshe. One final thing. The Gemara said, proof to you, the Gemara's question is, can you take the law into your own hand? Tashma, come in here. Bal habayish niach peah mitzad echad. Bal, an owner of a field, left peah for the poor people to take in this corner. Ubar niyam, and the poor people came, but not mitzad acher, and they took from the other side. And now, so really, if they took from the other corner, the original corner that was peah should become the owners, because the aniyim went to the wrong corners. Zev peah. Both corners are peah. In other words, you can't take the law into your own hands, and you have to leave them according to the way the Gemara understands that. Both of them have to be left for the for aniyim. The peah that the aniyim went, and the original peah that you left. The amrit of it inish dina l'nafshei. If a person can take the matter into his own hand, right? Amai zev peah linkud pazav lesav. Let him block the aniyim from coming to the original corner where he left peah, and say, listen, you took your peah from the other side. This belongs to me. And since we don't allow him to do that, and you can't take all the poor people to Bezdin, right? You have to leave both of them. So we see clearly that a person cannot take the law into his own hands. Rava said you could take the law into his own hand, and really he's allowed to take back the original peah that he left in the first corner. But my zev peah, why are we calling it peah? Lepoitrim min meiser. It has a din of meisers. It doesn't. He has the benefit that he does not have to pay the 10% tax to the Levi, and of course giving trumas, because once he left it at peah, and now he takes it back. So at one point, the original corner, the original peah produce was hefker. and therefore it now becomes exempt from Trumas and Maisris. Ketitanya, we learned in the Brisa, Hamafkes Karma. If you make your vineyard hefker, and then you made it hefker, and then you changed your mind. You got up the next morning, and you started cutting it and taking the grapes for yourself. For some reason, you have to still give matnas aniyim, even though hefker is potter for matnas aniyim. They required you to give matnas niyam, but here's the point: potter in a meiser. You're potter for a meiser. Since at one moment this vine was totally hefker, now that you reclaimed it, it's potter from a meiser. So Sensei says, Rava says, really you can take back that paya that you originally left. But what does it mean? It's gzev paya. It means it's potter from meiser. Since it was hefker for a moment, it belonged to aniyim. Therefore, it's potter from meiser, and you're not required to give off the Trumas Amaisris. New Mishnah. Nishbara Kadei Bershus Sarab. A man's jug was full of water and he tripped in the Rishus Sarabim. Now, the Tanakama is going to hold that if you trip, you did something wrong. I mean, people normally shouldn't trip in the Rishus Sarabim. If you trip and you broke the jug and the water spilled out, and somebody slipped over the water, or somebody damaged himself, got injured because of the shards, the pieces of the jug that was left in the Rishus Rabim, Chayev, the one that slipped, is obligated to pay. Rabbi Yehuda says, if you had intention to reclaim the water or reclaim the shards, Chayev, then you're obligated to pay. But if you said, oh no, I don't want to get this back, let it belong to the public and wait to sanitation day to clean it up, Potter, you're not obligated to pay. Because Rabbi Yehuda holds the fact that you tripped, it's not your fault. The tripping is considered an oinus, something that's totally not in your control. So this bar, so to speak, this stumbling block in the Rishus Rabim was left there by oinus. And therefore, the one that tripped is not obligated if he doesn't want to reclaim the shards that are on the floor. The Gemara continues. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Lo Shanu, was not taught in the Mishnah that you're chayev, right? It says you're chayev if you slipped on the water or you get damaged by the shards of the jug, is only the guy is obligated to pay only if he dirtied his kalim in the water. Okay, so you're thinking slipping on the water caused the guy, let's say his suit became dirty. Okay, that's how you're obligated to pay. Aval, we go to Amabeis, Aval hu atzmai, but the guy who slipped, right, the second guy who slipped over the water that spilled in the street. So who atzmai, if he slipped, Potter, the person that that dropped the water there is not obligated to pay. Why? Karka oilam hizikatu. In other words, the guy that slipped on the water and damaged, let's say, his elbow, what caused the damage of the elbow is actually the bang to the ground. And that's the ground belongs to God. So it really is not the person who put the water there. He was only caused him to slip to the ground. The Torah, we find that the Torah obligates a person if he digs a bar, but according to Rav, the bar that the Torah obligated a person was only because it caused the person who fell into the bar to suffocate or to suffocate, but not because he actually banged himself on the ground because of the fall. So Rav said that the only time you have to pay, is, let's say, for his suit, that he dirtied his suit, but for the actual physical damage you caused the person, you don't have to pay. When he said this statement in front of Shmuel, Amali, he told me, let us see. Avnai v'sakinai umasoi, the stone. If someone leaves a stone in the street, or a knife in the street, or a bundle in the street, it's the same thing as mibar lamadu. It all has a din of bar. So the guy who left the water is actually creating a bar. V'kulan anikari behen, and once you create a bar, shar v'loy adam chamar v'loy kalim. And that means the bar is potter on Adam. That does if you kill a Adam, and you potter if you kill a suit or damage a suit. That's only if you kill a person, a bar is potter. But if you damage somebody, if you caused him to break his arm, Adam Chayiv, you're obligated to pay for an Adam despite being a bar, the Kalim B'Turim, but you'll always be potter on Kalim. So what Shmuel in essence said, how could you, Rav, say that he is mechayev to pay for the suit that he caused to become dirty? At best, by leaving the water in the street, you made a bar. And if you made a bar, you potter on kalim, you potter on the dirtying the suit. And just the opposite, you chayev on the damage you caused the person. The tour of bar by Adam is only if you kill an Adam. But if you damage an Adam, very important point, the Baal bar is chayiv to pay. So Shmuel says that this is a bar, just the opposite. For the suit, you don't have to pay, but you have to pay for the damage you caused the person, because Rav Shmuel holds that a bar is the damage. The reason the lumdis, okay, behind the bar is that even if it's the karka, the ground that you fell on the ground caused the damage, the owner, the one that put the bar there, is obligated to pay. So just the opposite, you'll chayiv, according to Shmuel, not for the suit, but for the damage you caused the person. For Rav, Shmuel seems to make perfect sense. So the answer is, Hani mini hechadaf garinu. A bar means you made it hefker, like you dug a pit in the middle of the street, and you said, that's not my pit, I don't want to own it. So then you say the idea, shar b'lei adam, chamar b'lei kalim, and etc. In our Mishnah, the guy intended to come back for the shards. He didn't mafker it. He wants to pick it up, but he didn't pick it up in time. So it is his money that's doing the damage. So therefore, he could be obligated to pay for the suit, but not if he himself got damaged, the person who tripped got damaged, because it's the karka, the ground is causing the damage. But because he wasn't mafker it has a din like his shar that does the damage, and therefore shar that does the damage, your mammon that does the damage, is obligated to pay on kalim. Most of Rabbi Shai asked the question, the nafal shamashar chamar shar v'lo yodem chamar v'lo kalim. And Bar tells us that if a guy opened the bar and an ox fell in there, so we darshan shar v'lo yodem. Only if an ox falls in the pit, you have to pay. Chamor, if a donkey falls in the pit, you have to pay v'lo kalim, and not vessels that fall into the pit. The Kan Amru, from here they said, let's say a shor was carrying a bunch of vessels on its back, and it fell into the bar. Chamor v'kelev in a scroll. Let's say a chamor was carrying suits or fabric, and it fell into the bar and everything got ripped. Chayav al behema, you'll be obligated on the behema. Potter al kelim, and you potter on the kelim, on the vessels or the fabric. What does that compare to? To your stone or load that you left into the Rishus Harabim, and they did damage. So this digging a pit is like leaving a stone in the Rishus Harabim. So the Gemara just interrupts the Brisa and asks the question, that makes no sense. What's similar to this? What is similar to digging a pit is Avnei Sikin and Masoi, not because bar is written in the Chumash. Avnei Sikin and Masoi that you left in Rishus Harabim is not written in the Chumash, so it should say the opposite. Ella ma doimel. You should read in the Brisa what would be similar to the bar that's written in the Torah. If you left a stone, a load in the Rishus Harabim and they did damage. Now the Brisa seems to pivot. Someone set a stone into the public domain, right? You put a stone in the ground that's protruding. Then you'll be obligated to pay even damage to vessels. So Reisha Kashalara, the Reisha seems to imply that even if you were not mafkaret, right? Even if you were not mafkaret, you're potter on kalim. So the Reisha, the beginning of the Brisa says a bar is always potter on kalim. The Seifa, the end of the Brisa says Kashi the Shmuel. The end of the Brisa says that a bar is chayiv on kalim. So, because that's what the Brisa says. If you put a stone there and somebody trips, you'll chayiv on the vessels. So the Gemara first asks the question, you can't ask him Rav and Shmuel. The Brisa itself seems to contradict each other in the same sentence. According to your reasoning, Tikshlei Higufa, the Bryce itself makes is a little difficult. Reisha Potter, the beginning of the Bryce says you potter on Kalim with a bar. The Sefer Chayev, and the Sefer says you're obligated to pay on Kalim in a bar. So how do you square off the Brysa? Rav will give you an answer according to his understanding, and Shmuel will give you an answer according to his understanding. Rav gives you an answer according to his reasoning. But when did we say that you're obligated to pay, you're to potter on Kalim Kishav Kiram? In the beginning of the Brisa, the word the Brisa says you potter on Kalim is only when you mafkir the bar. But if you didn't mafkir the bar, chayav. Then, if you didn't mafkir the bar, then you chayav. Therefore, if the guy set a stone there, a stone that he wants to keep, right? Let's say it's a stone with an engraving on it, and somebody's glass jug or glass vase smashed on that stone, chayiv, you're obligated to pay because the bar was not hefker. It was like your mama. This stone becomes like your money that did damage, and a money thing that you own that did damage to kalim, you're obligated to pay. Shmuel will say an answer according to his reasoning. Now that you tell me that Avnes Kinamasoy is like your bar that did damage, so therefore, even if you're not mafker the bar, you still have to pay kalim, and that's what Shmuel holds. You're not obligated to pay kalim. Even a bar that you want to collect, you're not obligated to pay on kalim. But Rabbi Yehuda, the mechayiv on this kalim bar, if according to Rabbi Yehuda, who is of the opinion that kalim and bar are obligated to pay, he doesn't hold up the drasha chamor v'lo kalim. Rabbi Yehuda is a one-off opinion. Therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if a guy has a stone and put a stone into the ground, and somebody came and smashed his vases on that stone, chayiv, you're obligated to pay because Rabbi Yehuda holds you chayiv on this kekelim babar. A little bit difficult the way Shmuel learns the brisa. Anyway, because the brisa is switching the scenarios, the cases, and it sticks in a shita of Rabbi Yehuda. One last thing. Rabbi Shana says, Lo Shana, we weren't taught that you're obligated to pay on let's say the kalim, okay? Lo Shana, you're obligated to pay on Mishnah El Shenisko Be'even. You tripped on the stone, Benisha Be'even, and you slipped and you banged on the stone. Then you're obligated to pay. Let's say the person. So what we learned before is that if someone put a stone in the street and somebody was walking with vases and tripped over that stone and banged himself and he tripped on that stone and broke the vases on that stone, you have to pay for the vases. And according to Rav, let's say you weren't mafkarit, so that's why you have to pay for the stones, but you have to pay for the vases. Aval niska the karka. Let's say he tripped on the karka. He tripped on the street, and he smashed the vases of Nisha Be'evan, and he smashed the vases into the stone. You're potter from paying, because really, what caused you to fall? What caused the person to fall was not the stone, but was the karka. Come on, this is not like Rav Nosson, not like Rav Nosson, because Rav Nosson says when you have a shore and a bar that did damage, and whatever you can't collect from the shore, you collect from the bar. Same idea over here. Whatever you're not going to be able to collect from the karka, because it's a public domain that you tripped on, collect from the owner of the stone. But that's if you say you're potter, the owner of the stone is potter to pay. This is not like Rav Nosson's opinion. But Ika the Amrei, others say, Amar Rabbi says just the opposite. Don't say that only if you tripped on the stone and you smashed your vases on the stone, that's when you're obligated to pay. But the guy tripped on the street, and then banged himself, he smashed his vases onto somebody else's stone, you'll be potter. Don't say that. Even if you tripped on the ground on the regular street, which is not the fault of the person that put the stone there, but you smashed your vases onto his stone, chayiv, you're obligated to pay. Come on, Rav Nosson, because this is exactly what Rav Nosson said. Since you can't collect from the karka, from the people, the owners of the street, because the street is the public domain, you're going to collect the full damages from the person who put his stone there, because it's really, he still owns the stone, and that's why he's responsible for anything that damages are caused somewhat by his stone. Okay, as Hashem, we'll continue to have a nice Shabbos, and we'll continue next week.